Welcome to Rising Coaches with Sofia Bernardi. Today, I wanted to share a very raw and unfiltered episode with you where I share my 5-year complete transformation journey with you. So my life has completely changed in every single way possible in the last 5 years. And I thought it would be helpful or empowering or inspiring in one small way for you all to share this journey with you, so that if right now you don't love your situation, whether it's your financial situation or your relationship or your health or just your life in general, and you want to up the quality of your life in every way, your mindset, your physical being, your reality, your business, all the things, I hope that this story of mine that I have to share with you paints a very beautiful journey for you of what is truly possible for you when you go all in on your dreams. So I have not planned one single thing of this episode other than I'm just going to share with you my 5-year journey, because it was exactly this time of the year 5 years ago that my life changed in every way possible for the better. So September is a very, very special month for me because of this, because every year now I'm brought back to this time, which is now 5 years ago, that everything changed for me. And it's such a beautiful time of reflection. So for starters, let's start with the most important reason why September is my favorite month. It is my birthday month. So my birthday is on the 11th of September, which at the time of recording this is tomorrow. So I'm very, very excited about September for that reason, just by default. But the other reason I love September is because here in Australia anyways, it is spring. And I love how I'm telling you that right as it's just started raining and thunderstorming outside. That's very unlike Brisbane. This is the first time I've seen rain and thunder in a very long time. So that's quite ironic. But nonetheless, it's usually a very beautiful time of the year where the flowers come out and the sun comes out and winter is over. But it's actually getting to the point where you'll probably hear thunder in the background because it's actually getting quite loud. That's so funny. And so, yeah, it's really just a beautiful time of like, yay, winter is over. And there's a lot of newness and growth in spring. It's very beautiful. But the other reason is because of how much changed for me just 5 years ago. So let me walk you back and paint a very brief picture of where I was at in 2019, September. So I was single and I had been on this long journey to get over and move through this previous relationship I was in. It was a beautiful relationship, nothing I could fault there. Was in a relationship with a really, really great guy and still is a really great guy to this day. But when we broke up the year prior, so in 2018, I found that very difficult to move through for that reason of it was, in my mind, a really great relationship, but we were very young. And we were sort of at different stages in life in the sense that I had no idea what to do with my life. I had what felt like no purpose. I was living in my grandparents' spare bedroom and I had just moved back from Denmark to Australia. So I had very minimal family in Australia. I was working a casual job at a bar for my uncle a few hours a week or a day, sorry. And I just really was lacking a lot of fulfillment. Whereas my partner at the time, was super happy and was at university and knew what he wanted to do and, was confident in many areas of his life. And so there was a bit of a mismatch there. And I can imagine if I was to put myself in his shoes, that would be kind of difficult to be in a relationship with long term, because there was no way that he could predict that my life would transform. Not saying that is the reason it ended, but I can only imagine that was definitely a contributing factor. And so when this relationship ended in 2018, my life just crumbled, because that was the one thing that I was holding on to as a real positive in my life. And now that was gone as well, I just felt like I was truly at rock bottom. I was single, I had no purpose, I didn't have very many friends, and I was comparing myself massively to everyone in my life. Like, all of my friends were at university, they were all knew what they were doing with their life, they were living with their parents, under a stable family home with a roof over their heads, and here I was just in a very different situation and had to provide for myself all on my own and had nothing to really fall back on, which was very scary. So I just was so scarce with money, and I had no abundance and no confidence in myself, just because of the things I had gone through in my teen years when I lived in Denmark, with my parents splitting up and my dad having a gambling addiction and all of the things. It was very, very dark time. And so in 2019, I was still trying to move through this breakup, and I had come a very long way. 2019 actually was a very positive year for me. That's where I had found my feet. 2018 was absolutely horrendous. It was terrible getting over that relationship. But I still had this little thing lingering in 2019 of but that's my meant to be person. That's my soulmate. And so whilst I had, really moved through the breakup and I was in a much, much better place, I still had this tiny, tiny limiting belief that I was only meant to be with this one person in the world. And so even though I met so many amazing men that absolutely wanted to be with me, I just didn't want to be with them because I had this stupid belief. And so for that reason, I was single, struggling to move out of that. But this was all subconscious. I wasn't aware of this at the time, obviously. And so yeah, I still didn't know what to do with my life. In 2019, I was working lots of jobs suddenly. So in 2018, I was working at one bar job. And then 2019, I did transform a lot. It was my year of growth. And I did start working a lot of jobs and have a lot of happiness. But I still didn't know what to do with my life. So I had no purpose. I wasn't in a relationship. And, I still had a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of self-doubt and things like that, but definitely things were totally looking up in 2019. I look back on 2019 as one of the best years of my life. It was amazing in terms of the hustle and the figuring things out and things like that. But when it came to what, in comparison to my life today, my goodness, was I a lost soul. And so anyways, I had been reading some Tony Robbins books over the years very casually, and I really liked them. And one day I was sitting with one of my mum's friends and I was yapping on about how amazing this Tony Robbins book is. And she's like, he comes to Australia, right? You could just go see him. And I'm like, what? And I just didn't really think that was even an option for me or a possibility for me. And so then I started Googling and I saw that he was coming to Australia in September of 2019. And I was like, oh my God. And so I somehow, got on a sales call with one of the reps to talk about this 4-day event called Unleash the Power Within. And for you personal development junkies out there, you will know that it's called UPW for short. And so I was on this sales call, and then they said that the investment is $997. I'll be honest, I had that money and more, a lot more in my bank account, and yet I freaked out. I was like, I need to think about it, blah, 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 insert every objection ever. I had it. And I was so scarce. I was like, that's a lot of money. Oh my God, freaking out. They followed up with me a few days later, and then they followed up with me the week again. And every time they would follow up with me, I just prolonged it with some sort of excuse. And I think it got to the 5th follow-up call. Yes, I was my own worst nightmare. I wouldn't even do that for someone, So kudos to them for having this belief or a very generous sales process with people. And anyways, one day, I think, to be honest, out of just feeling so bad for messing them around so much, I was like, okay, I'm in. And I paid the $997, and then I put my life on this 4-day event. I was like, my life has to change from this event. This is such a big deal. I need to fly from Adelaide to Sydney and pay for a hotel. I have to find my purpose from this event. Anyways, literally the day before I go to fly to Sydney, you cannot make this up. And remember, at the time, I had a belief that I was meant to be with my ex-partner. And I literally am walking in my usual walking routine, and I bump into him, quite literally almost trip in front of him, because I was walking someone's dog, because that's what I did for a living back then. I walked people's dogs, babysat their kids, worked at cafes, all the things. And I look up, not only is it him, but he is next to his new girlfriend that I didn't know existed. And her name was very similar to mine, actually, now that I think about that out loud. And so I bumped into them. I was in a good headspace. It wasn't really a problem, to be honest, but I was more shocked. You just can't make that up. And I'm sharing this with you for context because it's helpful later on. So anyways, bump into them. I look like a mess. I'm in a tracksuit, probably haven't washed my hair for a week. I'm holding someone's dog that is literally just running around me in circles, whilst I'm so flustered that I bumped into my ex with his new girlfriend, and it was all just a lot. Anyways, we say hello, everything's fine. I continue walking, feeling so embarrassed, which is just so funny now, which is why I'm so comfortable to talk about it. And anyways, the next day I flew to Sydney. So I flew from Adelaide to Sydney for this 4-day event. And it's a 12-hour day. Like, if anyone knows anything about Tony Robbins and his events, you'll know that they are not for the faint-hearted. They are full on days, 12-hour days plus. You're in this big, seminar or arena. I think it was the Kudos Bank Arena or whatever it's called. And it was just full on. And I didn't really know what to expect, other than a lot of the messaging on the sales page is all about finding your purpose, which is what I wanted to do. Anyways, you walk on fire there, you hug like 50,000 people, you learn so much about yourself, you release your limiting beliefs, you find your purpose, all of these things. And all of those things happened for me. And so when it came time to removing my limiting beliefs, one of the things that I wrote down that was limiting me was that I believed that I'm meant to be with my ex-partner. And then you go through this really deep process where you have to link so much pain to this belief. And if you continue to hold on to this belief, like, you're just, you're in big trouble. Like, you're just, you're not going to move forwards. And you link so much pain to it. Like, people were screaming. It was kind of crazy, actually. People were screaming. People were crying. People were making the loudest noises. That wasn't me, but I still finally sunk into this process. And I visualized that if I didn't let go of this belief, that in 10 years' time, not only would he be married with that person, I think they're no longer together, actually, but I obviously didn't know that at the time. But they were going to be married, and all of my friends are going to be married. The whole world. I visualized, not just him, I visualized the whole world having moved forwards by 10 years, and I was still in the same spot because I was still holding on to this belief that I was meant to be with this person. So, but because, he was unavailable or whatever, we weren't together, I would just be single forever. Can you hear how this is a terrible belief? And so I released this belief because I linked so much pain to that. Because for me, my driving force is growth. It's growth. So I don't success, I don't even really know what that means. Whatever. The thing that I care about is growth. And so the feeling of not progressing, not moving forwards, and everyone and everything else around me moving forwards absolutely scared the living daylights out of me. So I let go of that belief right then and there, and my goodness, did I feel so free after over a year of holding on to it since the relationship had ended. And it was so freeing, guys. I also let go of a belief that I wasn't good enough and that I was never going to be successful. So it was really cool to let go of those 3 really big beliefs. I realized I had this epiphany after this, on the very last day, I think it was, that a lot of the people at this seminar were coaches, and Tony Robbins was a coach. And I was so inspired by him, and I thought he was just a god and so amazing. And he was on this stage helping 10,000 people. And I'm I want to do that. I want to help 10,000 people on a stage. I want to do all that sort of stuff. And I had this light bulb moment that, I can do that. I can be a coach. All these people here are coaches. So I decided to become a coach, and they drill in your mind the importance of having a coach at this event. They're you've got to have a coach. All successful people have a coach, blah, blah, blah. It fast tracks success. And so of course I believed that because that's what they told me. And so a lot of people go and sign up with a coach after that. And so a lot of people sign up with a Tony Robbins coach, though. I didn't want to do that. I wanted a more private or personal one or whatever, outside of the affiliation of this program, because those coaches are just generic people that I didn't know. They're just under the umbrella of Tony Robbins, but they're not Tony Robbins. So I found this coach that I knew of, I found out about, because he actually wanted to, I somehow connected with him, and he wanted to interview me based on my experience from this event. And then he became my coach in the end, because I realized that he was a business coach, and he helped me one-on-one, and it was amazing. And then I've since then had a billion different coaches, and I've learned so much. But that's how really everything started. And so the reason why I take the time to share that context is because I invested in this one 4-day event. And the takeaway is not to go to that 4-day event, mind you. It was more about the investing yourself, putting yourself in a room, getting out there, and moving through the stuff that holds you back. And so I attended this event and I did what was recommended to do. It's to go get a coach. So I immediately went and did that. And it wasn't without like a lot of resistance and fear. Like this investment was now $3,000 and I was struggling that much to make a $1,000 investment, but I'd moved through a lot of that by the time it came around to this. And so, yeah, anyways, I signed up to this coach. And then 2 weeks to the day after this event, I then met my now partner, Geordie. It was the very next date that I went on, and he was the one. And this was amazing because if I had met him before going to that event, I would have still had that belief that I'm only meant to be with this one person, and I would have pushed away another really amazing guy. But because I had gotten rid of this belief, I don't know, call it a coincidence or what, but the very next person I met was like my person. And we've been together now for almost 5 years because it's coming up to that time, because we've just been together ever since we met. And it was, I was finally a match for someone like that because I had done all this work on myself all of a sudden. And so when he met me, I had like made all of these changes. Like I signed up to run a marathon. I had decided to become a coach. I just hired a coach. I just went to this transformational event. Like all of these things happened. So this is why September is so important to me, because it was on the 19th of September that I went to Unleash the Power Within for 4 days. And then 2 weeks to the day of finishing that event, I met Geordie. So I had run my first half a marathon in September. I went to this event. I found my purpose. I met my partner. I had my birthday. Like all of these things happened. It was really wild. It was really, really special. And so I get to reflect on this every September on this was the month that everything changed for me for the better. I got a certification, or like I signed up for one anyways. Like I just made all of these decisions, and it's so cool. My first year in business was a real challenge. Like the amount of mindset blocks and struggles I faced was like next level. And poor Geordie had to just watch me really cry and be sad and struggle and be in fear and go back and forth so much. And but he really, really helped me. He's a business owner as well, and he was able to be a really good rock solid person every step of the way, which is amazing. And so that helped. But the first year was a struggle. I didn't make that much money, but then I kept investing in myself, and finally, after being so sick of myself, I made like a big investment in myself. It was $9,000 for 6 months in a mastermind, and I invested in this coach. And because that was such a big investment for me, like that was so scary, I really, really showed up for it. And I played full out. I took action on everything I was told, and I got out of my own way so much, and I started making some pretty good money. And like shortly after, like made $10,000 a month, and then skyrocketed to 15 and 20 and 30 and 40. And here we are today. And so, that was really awesome. And then I finally found a coach after that really was my coach. Like she aligned with me so much, and she had the lifestyle that I wanted in the way that I wanted it, and had the same values and personality and all of the things. Whereas my previous coach, whilst I got so much out of it from a strategic point of view, it wasn't super sustainable. Like he wasn't in a relationship. His whole life was working and hustling, and his profit margin was low and all of these things. So whilst I learned so many great things, when I looked at like his life, I'm like, well, do I want this life? And I was like, well, no, I don't. And then I shouldn't learn from someone if I don't really want, like, I don't align with that pathway of where that's taking me down. And so then I finally found my coach, who I've then worked with for like 3 years or however long. And it's been amazing. When you find your person, you go all in on long-term mentorship, it changes the game. And that's where I started hitting those 30, 40, 50K months. And yeah, now I immerse myself around some really top level coaches, and pretty much every container I have been in, I have outgrown from the lens of becoming the big fish. And I really like to be the small fish. I want to be the minuscule one that has so much to learn from everyone else. But I outgrew so many programs. I always became like the top quote unquote top performing coach in all of these spaces, because I really followed through. I showed up, I came to every call, I asked questions. I never like allowed myself to stay stuck. Like I would lean into support anytime I felt that way. And that's what allowed me to grow. And so I wanted to share this story with you because I hope you can see that your limiting beliefs, the stories you tell yourself that apply both to your personal life and your business, that plays a role in like your success. But the commitments you make, the investments you make, the decisions you make, the amount you lean in and show up all matter. And after investing in all of these coaches and all of these masterminds and programs and seminars and, seeing what supports me to succeed and what doesn't, I realized that there's 3 key things that are so important if you want to scale your business. The first one is you need to have a sustainable strategy. So like I told you, I was learning some strategies that yes, worked, but were they sustainable? Did they feel good? Like, no. And so you need to have a sustainable strategy. And after learning from the best of the best in so many different fields, I've been able to create my own marketing strategy that really feels good for me. And that's why it works. And that's how I teach my clients today. So that's the first thing, is you need a sustainable strategy. Like, it has to be sustainable. The second thing is you need a seamless sales process. I used to avoid sales like the plague. I would be happy if people canceled a sales call. I was so scared of asking for the sale, asking for money, like making an offer. Like, I was petrified of it. But in that time where I didn't prioritize sales and doing that stuff, I didn't make money. So it was really big for me to learn a seamless sales process where I was selling, but it didn't feel like I was selling. And now I teach my clients a variety of different ways that they can sell. And it's so powerful. So, seamless sales is that second piece that's so essential if you want to scale your business. And the third thing that I realized comes so naturally to me, and I only realized how important it was when I realized that not many people do this at all, and that's having simple systems in place. So some people have overcomplicated systems and it's actually like so many subscriptions, so many different things. They're just making it so much harder than they need to be. And then there's the other side of the spectrum where people just have no systems at all. It's complete chaos. They don't know where everything is. They've got some things on USBs, some on their desktop, some on their hard drive, some on a Google Drive folder, some on OneDrive. Like, it's all over the shop. They don't have templates for things. They're doubling up on tasks. They can't find anything. And it's just crazy. And then, the other side of the spectrum is just so many systems that it's like, whoa, which system is this on? Where would this be? Because there's just too many things, and you're losing so much money just because of the overcomplication of it and time. And so I like to sit in the middle of having simple systems, affordable, if not free for most things, systems that allow you to run a really smooth business model. And I only realized this because organization, hello, I'm a Virgo. I'm in September, organization is if you're watching the video of this, I literally have a color-coded bookshelf behind me. It doesn't get more organized than that. And so for me, it's come so natural to me, to the point, when I was a kid, most kids ask their parents, can I have a cookie after school? I would say, Mom, can you please clean my room with me? Because I just liked it when she did it. It felt even more clean when she did it. That's what I wished for as a kid, because there's literally something wrong with me. So, that's where I felt, just so organized. But I only realized that this was a thing that didn't come naturally for people, and how important it was when I started supporting so many clients. And every time I would share my screen on Zoom to show them stuff, and they saw how my bookmarks tab was organized, or how my computer had nothing on it, or how my Google Drive folder was organized, they were like, oh my God, teach me your ways. How are you doing this? And it was through that I realized that I was onto something here. And so that's when I started teaching that, because I'm like, oh, this is how people would ask me, how do you get so much done? How are you so organized? How do you do this? I'm like, oh, I just use this system where I have this thing in place. And I realized that that doesn't come naturally to people. So I realized, oh, that actually does help me to succeed, because I am not I repurpose things. I have templates for everything. Everything's so organized and seamless. And I was like, right, I need to teach this. So that's how I realized that pillar was so important. So I realized if I was to drill it down to 3 things that it's going to help you to actually simply and sustainably scale and create a business that you actually love, it would be having simple systems, a sustainable strategy, and a seamless sales process. And this is what I now call today the scalable system. And I'm very proud of it, because it's not one of those methods or strategies that boxes you in or corners you, or, makes you feel like you have to do things you don't want to do, or it feels unaligned, or it's too complicated, or it's too easy and overpromises. It's none of that. It's also not a method that only works for one stage in business or one time in your life. It works no matter your stage in business, because I've designed it that way. And to me, that's the best use of your time. Like, why would you invest your time anywhere else other than a scalable system? So, when you master these 3 pillars, it allows you to create aligned, scalable results. It allows you to scale. And that's when you can focus on alignment, continuous alignment, because as you grow and evolve and things change, you need to check yourself and make sure things are still in alignment and tweak where necessary. We can focus on your profit, because we want to make sure as you grow and scale, your profit margin doesn't just vanish into thin air like so many other businesses, right? And we can focus on delegating. So we want to create a freedom-based business where there is spaciousness. And so you're going to have automations or delegate things to a small team so that you can continue to do that. And that's how I have a clear calendar most days of the week. It's because of this system and because I focus on that. And so today, for example, I had a sales call and she joined Scale School, which is amazing. So that was worth my time. What did I do? I had a slow morning with my beautiful partner, we had the best time. And also, what else did I do? I did a training for my clients. It went for an hour and a half, a bit more than that actually. And I taught them all about how to nurture their audience and they freaking loved it. And it was amazing. So loved that. And then I went out for lunch with a friend by the river in Brisbane and we had such a beautiful time. I then walked home and I have chilled out a little bit and now I'm recording this podcast episode. And after this, I'm going to the gym. I've had to be on one call. One was a voice call. The sales call was a voice call and I was cleaning the house while I was on the phone to her and that's so easy. And then the coaching call, one call for the whole day. In fact, do you know what? It's my one call for the week. I Scale School's design in one week we have one workshop on one different topic and then the alternating week we have 3 different Q&A calls. So 4 calls every 2 weeks. That's nothing. I've built such a beautiful business and because I've designed everything so intentionally, I have an amazing life and I want you to have an amazing life. I don't want to help you create a business where you're fully booked with bookings all everywhere in your calendar and you're going to burn yourself out and exhaust yourself and no, that's not why we get into business. We want to create more freedom, more impact and more income, and you're not going to do that through creating a business model like that. You've got to create a scalable business model. And that's what I help you with. And so, we're now 5 years later from when my journey really started in terms of starting my business. And now I have a clear calendar most weeks. I live with my beautiful partner in Brisbane and we're very happy. I'm really happy and confident in my body and with my health. That has been a journey. I've got 145 clients across the globe in all of the countries I can imagine. And I have more money in my bank account than I know what to do with. I have a high profit margin. I have an amazing family. I have so much wealth and diversification in my, my income, my money, and creating that true wealth. And I just have an amazing life. I truly have an amazing life. I have been traveling overseas all year. I've been to New Zealand. I've been to Adelaide. I've been to Europe for 3 weeks. I have been to Fiji. I've been in Brisbane. I'm going to Sydney in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be going to Asia later in the year, probably with Geordie for our annual weekly holiday that we go on every year. I have just lived my best life and I worked very, very bloody hard for this. Prior to starting my coaching business and even in the first year of my coaching business, I was working 5 casual jobs, 60 hours a week, hustling to the ground. Now, I did that to make $20 an hour and pay my bills and have a roof over my head. And now I make $50,000 every month. So what used to take me a whole year takes me a month or less to do. And that is so, so cool. And I know that this is just the beginning and it continues to grow. It continues to get better and better. And it's because I follow this system and it's because I've been in business for the long run. I have definitely navigated challenges in the last 5 years. We had a global pandemic, for goodness sakes, and various other challenges, a lot of things have happened and it hasn't been an easy road, but having support every step of the way has made it easier. And I wouldn't be here without that support. So being in business for the long run, trusting myself, backing myself, going all in, making quick decisions, making big investments, leaning into the journey, doing this mindset work and making decisions from a simple, sustainable and scalable place. All of that combined is like why I'm here. And so if you take away anything from this episode, it's that you've got to lean in. Most people lean out when things get tough. I want you to lean in. How can you lean in more when things don't go your way, when things don't go to plan? That's what matters most, is leaning into it. I have leaned into this experience and I've been in it for the long run. I don't have an exit plan. I don't have a plan on quitting. I don't have a plan on slowing down. I don't have a plan on, stopping. I'm living my mission. I'm living my passion. I'm living my purpose. And I want every coach, every entrepreneur, every person on this planet to truly experience that, because 5 years ago, I had only just figured out at the age of 22 what to even do with my life. And I didn't have one speck of certainty or awareness or knowledge that was going to even work out, but I leaned into it. And so now I have this amazing life because I kept leaning in, and I hope that this episode is a permission slip for you to do the same. I hope you've loved my story. It's very raw, it's very real, it's very vulnerable, it's very transparent. I could have gone into way more details about every year in business and the transformation, but I really just kind of wanted to have a raw and real conversation about how my life has done a full 180, a full transformation in the last 5 years because I leaned in and because I took massive action. And I hope that you've taken in some certain nuggets or bits of wisdom here, or knowledge or awareness on what you should really be focusing on to grow. And if any of it's helped you, please let me know. Please message me on Facebook. Please message me on Instagram. I'm at Sofia Rose Bernardi. Share this episode with your friends or anyone in business, or on your Instagram stories if you just want to spread this message far and wide. It would mean so much to me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you all so much, and I will speak to you soon. Bye. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to screenshot this episode, sharing what you think on your Instagram stories, tagging me at Sofia Rose Bernardi so that I can reshare it. And if you do, I'll send you a special resource exclusive for my podcast listeners to help you grow and scale your business. I'll see you in the next episode.